Our elders. The elders on 55 up to that time, we called them Gye-Nyame. So at the front table here are when you was our elders, and I'd like them to introduce themselves.
Now, I am not old enough to be winning the sorrow. I'm looking to get there. There you go. I kept asking, why am I sitting up here? But I'm Ori Pianki, and I am an elder in Tawi family too.
We're most grateful that he is an elder, and he will get that.
Elder Margarita.
I'm Elder Sokoto Kalani. Come next month, I'll be 80.
Okay. I'm Elder Nyame Kelsey, and I'll be.
Yes.
Over 75.
I'm Elder Marika Kelsey, and in 6 years I'll be 100.
That's it.
And I'm so glad to be here with you today. It is a special blessing to me to be able to be here. So I would like to just open first and give honor to the Creator and all of our ancestors, because we all know that if it were not for our ancestors and for the Creator, that we would not be here. And to the extent that we stand on their shoulders, is to that extent that we will continue to receive the blessings without any restrictions. And so I just say to us, as we open today, it's important for us to acknowledge that we are receiving those blessings. And if you're not conscious of the fact that we're standing on the shoulders of the Creator and our ancestors, then reconsider it as a part of our being in this room today, so that you too can enjoy those blessings. Everybody enjoys them, but they don't appreciate them. And so we want to both enjoy and appreciate those blessings as we stand together. Second, I want to just tell you that I'm humbled to be able to be here with you, because the fact that you asked me to be here with you when I come from your ranks is a blessing to me. And so I'm humbled by that. And I might say that I'm full of glee, joy, or whatever you want to call it. Because of that, because it makes me happy to see those of us, so many of you who I know so well, who are here today. And it makes me happy to know that we have reciprocity going on among us continuously. And so I greet you with those greetings to say that today I've been asked to talk a while now, and I'm going to talk a while. But I want to make you understand at the beginning that you're going to work a while too. And because it seems to me that every time we come together, we're to be talking and learning together, continuing to talk and learn together, but we also ought to be about the business of working and accomplishing something, saying that we have accomplished this small task or whatever, a large task, and so that we can say to ourselves and to the generations behind us that, look, we didn't waste our time, we took our time to do what we needed to do.
Sure.
So last night when we were talking about the calendar, I said, don't be in a rush, just take your time, but make sure that everybody speaks with one voice when you leave here. And I think there's a time that we begin to talk more specifically about speaking with one voice. And I might tell you, that I expect this to be kind of a chat. I had prepared a document, and last night as I heard what was happening, I want to change. I'm going to change some of the things. You're going to hear part of the document, but you're going to also hear something that got created last night. That's all right. What I noted last night, and those of you who missed last night, you missed the treat because we had a presentation on the calendar. But what I was noticing as I entered that room, as I sat in that room, was that there was so many different things that were going on that made me even more so want to say to Tawi, the Tawi family business, that it's time that you begin to take on the challenge of becoming a prototype that may be transferred to other communities across the nation. Because you don't know. I travel quite a bit, and I have quite a few people who call for one reason or another. And we're not. I don't know if you're aware of the fact of how much dissidence we have among us, and how much we have. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Your deep voice, sir.
That's one of my. He reminded me that he went to Arizona with me one time, and we had, and he got bitten by a spider with it.
Something like that.
Out in the night when he shouldn't have been out in the night. But he was out doing what young men would do at that time, exploring. Yeah. Some of the things that I noticed last night was that maybe I should say one of the things I was going to speak about. The title of what I was going to speak about, share with you right now. The title was called African Nationhood, Clarified and Embraced for Action. I think that it's time that we begin to look seriously every time we talk about some work that we should do, and begin to put it on a timetable. Because what has happened in the past is that we've talked about so many different things, and we didn't put it on a timetable. Therefore, it didn't get done. And I can, later on, I'll name a few of those that I think that we in the Tawi village have been guilty of. But let me say that what I noted last night was that there were so many things. In Gye-Nyame, am I pronouncing?
Gye-Nyame, yes, sir.
Gye-Nyame, that you spoke about last night, but you would be commended for that type of activity. And the reason I want to commend you for that is that what I noticed in the places, many of the places like Atlanta, Baltimore, D.C., places like that, where we have large numbers of black people in the population, they all are working at odds. Many of them are working at odds with each other. And to see have the experience of knowing that you're pulling various vendors and small businesses together so that you can increase their volume and ensure their success, I think you ought to be commended, and I think you should give yourself a hand for that, because that is absolutely wonderful. Very few places that I've seen where that's happening. And the second thing that I saw in that room last night was that maybe some of you have heard me talk about capital. And you may have heard me say something about the fact that human capital far exceeds the value of fiscal capital. And we've been fooled, duped. If we got money, we got everything. Well, my goodness, let me tell you something. Money can be changed overnight. It can be dropped and it can be changed overnight. Human capital, it will still remain. When we have no so-called fiscal capital as the medium of exchange, we exchange but with human capital by doing things with each other and sharing with each other. In that room, I can tell you that there were so much talent that I saw, that I just wanted to remind you of that, because later on as I talk to you about 2 or 3 of the objectives that I'd like to see you consider, I'm going to say to you that the human capital is there. Don't worry about the fiscal capital, because if you work the human capital right, then the fiscal capital will come. I get the whisper, man. Yeah, I got a wonderful wife, a wonderful wife. She reminds me that I lose my voice sometimes, and so I need a mic, and to put the mic closer to your mouth. But you get the point that I'm making? I think we've been duped into believing that it's fiscal capital that we must have. Now, I'm not saying dismiss that, but I'm saying put things in their proper perspective. If you have talent around in this room, and you know that you have talent around in this room, then you can accomplish whatever you set out to accomplish. If I set you up, which I'm going to do, if I set you up in kind of a workshop fashion, where you're working in groups of 8 or something like that, and say to you that set some objectives for things that you want to achieve, and you set some objectives that you think are necessary in this community, and you set a timeline on them, and you are committed to that, then you don't need capital to make that happen, unless you decide that's one of the factors you want to achieve. So just keep that in mind. You got what you need, is what I'm saying. You got what you need in order to do things. So I'm challenged today, because what I have to say to you is you have heard before. I'm sure that you've heard this before. You may not have heard it in this form, but I'm sure you've heard it before. And I want you to tie deep down into yourself the fact that you have heard it and decide how it is to be used. I told you last night that I had written a little book on African genius. It's unpublished right now. It will be published before the end of the month, I think. And it's called Genius of African United. And the theory in this book says that every one of us, when we talk about human capital, it says that every one of us has geniusness. Now, the copy editors told me that, she said, what are you doing, creating a new word? She said, you're making geniusness be a noun. And I said, well, if that's what it takes, that's what it is. She said, you can't find it in the dictionary. I said, so what? And I'm saying to you that we have to begin to take the freedom and get out of the Oxford box and create our own terminology to make sure that we understand what we're talking about when we talk to each other. Because sometimes part of the reason that we don't understand each other is that we're using other folks' terminology. So in this particular book, we're talking about African geniusness. Geniusness. Look it up. And I want to remind you that one of those. I started this book with one of those that the African Center and aerobic inspired me to do. And so I want us to stand while we make that African pledge to ourselves. Just in case you don't remember it, I'm going to read out with you. I am a genius.
I am a genius.
My ancestors were were geniuses.
My ancestors were geniuses.
My ancestors have made me a genius.
My ancestors have made me a
In
genius.
all that I think, say, and do,
In all that I think and say and
I
do,
must declare myself a genius.
I must declare myself a genius.
I am a genius.
I am a genius.
Whenever I'm myself,
Whenever I am myself,
I practice my geniusness
I practice my geniusness
and do great things.
and do great things.
All my thoughts,
All my thoughts,
choices,
choices,
and deeds
and deeds
must express my genius.
must express my geniusness.
I am a genius.
I am a genius.
My decisions must always be in the best interest
My decision must always be in the best interest
of myself.
of myself.
Now I want you to think about that. My genius must always be in the best interest of myself, individual self, and collective self. The moment that we begin to do something that's not in that best interest, we begin to lose our power, which I'm going to talk about a little later, our power. Only then will I and everyone know
Only then will I and everyone else know
that I'm a genius.
that I am a genius.
I'm a genius.
I'm a genius.
At all times, my geniusness
At all times, my geniusness
must reflect my culture.
must reflect my culture.
My geniusness
My geniusness
must serve my God.
must serve my God.
Oh, well, my wife, I could say she should keep on, but I want to say something. I'll obey. My genius must reflect my culture. My genius must reflect my God. Serve my God. My genius must make me be one
My geniusness must make me be one
in love and harmony
in love and harmony
with my family,
with my family,
my blood family, and my community family.
my blood family, and my community.
Yes, at all times,
Yes, at all
I
times,
must demonstrate excellence
I must demonstrate excellence
because I am a genius.
because I am a genius.
And I don't want us to forget that. Please be seated. Oh, okay. This pledge is important because even though it was written about 30 years ago, we still have not accepted all the elements in it. And I think that it's time that we begin to put on the table that we need to accept these things for ourselves, because we let all kinds of things divide us from expressing that. When I see every day the violation of this among ourselves. I see us declaring that that individualism is important over our showing our geniusness. I see our big-headedness. I see our depressionism occurring. I see argumentativeness occurring. Now I'm putting all these things out here because I think it's time we put them on the table. We're family, and we're to talk and act like family and put things on the table. But you never put them on the table to create divisions. You put them on the table so you can come together and function in a more positive way. And that's the purpose. That's the purpose of doing this kind of analysis. It seems to me that that as we reflect today, we will use as I use this topic of African nationhood, embraced and clarified for action. There are several sub-discussions that I want to have with you. The first is that the results of pseudo-illusions created for African families and communities and consumption, which is, by that I mean that we have been duped into believing that we are somebody we're not. And that, now you know that pseudo means false. Mm-hmm. And you know that illusion means an imaginary thing, and I'm going to put it a little bit clearer to say it's like creating a false mirror, something in a mirror that you think you see but you don't see. For example, some of those things might be that we can't be successful because they won't let us achieve certain things. That's an illusionary thing. I call it a pseudo, false illusion. And I want you to remember that any time that you face a situation for ourselves individually and collectively, and/or collectively, and you come up with the feeling that it's too much for me to handle, take another look and correct that illusion for ourselves. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and I want us to do a reality check of the African family and the community today, and be honest about what we see and what we don't see. What you jumping around for? You all right? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. And then I want to talk specifically about how we enhance our strengths and how we enhance our weaknesses and how we solve issues of importance. Because I think that it's time that we just talk together and we have family. This is a family meeting as far as I'm concerned. It's a family meeting that you've called together for us to talk about solutions. And in order to do solutions, we've got to do a little bit of checking up on what's true and what's not true. And so that's what I want to do today. There will be a workshop session after this, which will be divided into small groups. During the workshop participation, I'll ask you to use selected cells from. How many of you remember that once upon a time I took on the areas of life that Neither Fuller gave us on one axis, and I took Ma'at on the other axis, and we said that there was 9 times 7 is 63 cells that we ought to be attending to in that square. Now, I'll give you that on a sheet of paper after a while, but keep in mind that's 60. What is it? 9 times 7, 63 cells that we can build around for Tawi village. And I want us to take the time today to look at which one a small group might like to take and work on. Because as I saw yesterday, you're already working on some. You might take the time to say that I'm going to work on those and to build it to another level. Because we're not, either an organization or a family or individual, either he's growing or he's winding down. I could say dying, I guess. Okay. I guess I could say that. Well, my wife's up there. But it's true. You know, I have a garden in my house, which some of you know I have every year. This year me and the beetles had a war. The first battle I won. I put some hot pepper and some grease and some cleaning fluid or something like that, and I sprayed it with that, and I won. They came back. I didn't win the second battle. Now I didn't put enough effort in it, I think, because if I had put enough effort in it, I think I would have won the next battle. And I think that's sometimes what happens is that we have the first battle we win, and then we kind of back off of it and say, well, you know, it got me at that time. That's what I kind of said. And I don't know if I want to put the same effort in the second time. So I'm saying to you that as we talk today, and as we work together today, keep in mind these types of things, and beyond this. I'm not saying this just for today. Beyond this, keep in mind these types of things. Tomorrow, I'm going to speak on understanding, accepting, and using a formula. Now, you will hear elements of this formula today, but I'll talk specifically about it tomorrow. Unity, and you can write this down if you want to, but this is what I'm proud of, y'all. It says unity plus or times. You know, times is really many pluses. unity plus or times maybe I should say it another way. My wife said I change it all the time, and that's probably true. You know, I keep telling you, I got a wonderful wife. She reminds me of everything. Keeps me straight when I'm going crazy. But sometimes I wish she would back off a little bit. Can't twist me. But African unity plus or times African power equals African divine victory. Very simple formula.
One more time, Baba.
African unity plus or times African power equals divine victory. In other words, you got to have all two of those on that one side of that equation in order to get the others on the other side to balance it out. You got a question there, Brother Kwame?
No, I was just gonna. I'll work on it in my mind, but I'm gonna have to improve on that one.
All right. That's what family is all about, right?
Word.
Okay. All right. African nationhood, according to Elder Mariba, is not just talk. It is made up of African cultural controls, plans, actions, structures, processes, and outcomes. Yes, it has African regulations. We should have regulations. We should have them that we all develop together and abide by. You can't operate without that. It should have directives, and it should have energies that are designed to uplift, build, and maintain African individuals, families, African institutions, and African communities. All African nation elements support, heal, and strengthen African individuals and Africans collectively. There's no room, brothers and sisters, for argumentativeness, that stubbornness that all of us have had a part of. I mean, we've all been victims of that and have been facilitators of that. And big-headedness. Y'all don't know nothing about big-headedness. No, that's probably another one of those Mariba words, big-headedness. but there's no room for that. And disagreeableness just for disagreeableness' sake. We need to, we're going to disagree. But the disagreeableness ought to be designed to put what I think is best on the table, and then for all of us to come to a point of agreement. That's what, if I was describing that African power in that equation, that's what I would be talking about. Where we come together. Brother Tony was talking about that in the drum session today. He was saying that when when the music comes together, when we all come together on the same beat, and the same rhythm, and I'm certain I'm not using the right terminology, but
That's right.
well, that the music comes out and it's spiritually sound. And I think that's what we have to begin to be fully aware of. But I want to repeat that little statement there. If we want African nationhood, we all talk about African nationhood. Some of us call it Pan-Africanism or whatever you want to call it. But we're talking about the African nationhood. If we really want that, we have to have African regulations, African directives, and energies that are built to uplift, build, and maintain African individuals, families, institutions, and communities. We got to have those. All African elements should be designed to support, heal, and strengthen African individuals and Africans collectively. In other words, if it strengthens me by myself, there's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with it. Now, we've been taught, I'm fully aware that we've been taught, let's go to heaven by myself. Excuse me, brother. but I don't want to go by myself.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm saying that to us to say that somehow we have to take that seriously. We have to take that seriously because that pseudo illusion that I'm talking about says something different. It begins to say that it's up to you individually. If your brother don't go, leave him back there. No, I don't see no evidence. I don't know nothing to support that. I don't know nothing to support that. Second, the elements of African nationhood are guided by African cultural beliefs and practices and African learnings. And we ought to be doing those learnings together. We ought to be knowing what those beliefs are and what those cultural practices are, and we ought to be learning those together. Because we all, nowhere in school, I was so good, man, you don't know how proud I was today when you said that I've been, in this, he said to me, in this school, I'm teaching African learnings and African principles. And these children, he said, when they leave here, they will know something about what it means to be African. That's my summation of what I think you said. And that you know, what can a 94-year-old man wish for more than that?
That's right.
What can he wish for more than that? When one of his young men who he has some influence in his life says something like that to him, I think it's time that we begin to, all of us begin to aim for things like that among ourselves and among our young people. Now you can't do it by just talking, y'all. You can't do it. We got some eloquent, man. We got some eloquent speakers. Great day. Great day. I mean, then you look behind the curtain, and Lord have mercy. So it's got to be that they see that in you. They see that in your practices. Otherwise, it's just the same old. I like to say stuff. Same old. It's all same old stuff around over. Let me pause. Some of you know that I was here in Columbus and involved in some of the things that was happening in Columbus. And one of them, I don't know where this came from in our house, but in my house it says, in my house it appeared. It says Columbus desegregation plan in 1979. That's what it said Columbus desegregation plan called sugar-coated racism, and they go, and I don't even remember saying it, but I know that that's true. That's true, and we. I said that then. I'll say it now. The stuff that we're calling now more opportunities is sugar-coated white supremacy.
Right.
And now, I'm not saying that for us to dwell on that, because what I'm saying that is so our eyes will be open to that.
Right.
And then as we plan whatever we plan, our eyes are open to that, and we plan on doing whatever we need to do regardless to the fact. In fact, the matter is taking that as a challenge, saying that if I overcome this particular white supremacist obstacle, that I'll be stronger than I ever was before. Now, I'm going to pause for a minute. What I said, if I overcome this one, I'll be stronger than I ever was before. Now, it's extremely important that we begin to accept the fact that we have the power to do whatever we want to do.
Sure.
We have the power to do whatever we want to do. And that we've been duped with that pseudo-illusion. I want to keep back referring to it. Don't forget that pseudo-illusion. Now, that's another one of those, Kelsey, not in the right dictionary thing. But doesn't everybody in here understand that? Yeah. And we need to create. Now, why would we be ashamed to create something that fits so well that everybody understands it? We need to do that more and more. We have sometimes. You remember when I used to go down to London prison? You remember, I know. There were some guys in those prison groups that created words that everybody understand up and down in the corridor. And they acted on them when they decided to. And now, when they came out, of course, they told them that there was something wrong with them doing that, and that they weren't get a job and whatnot, and they couldn't use them, and whatnot, and so they had to quit using that kind of terminology. They said, and they believed it, unfortunately, except those who were in the Crips and the Bloods. Now, we got to face up to the fact that sometimes the rules and regulations that we created for ourselves that make us strong, they make us leave those, and only the people on the street continue to follow them. And they have regulations within those groups that if they follow them, they will be forever loved and uplifted inside of their group. Can't we do the same thing if we're not one of those? Okay. One might say, Mariba, if African nationhood is all you say it is, why do the newspapers, the radio, the research, university research, the pulpits, and others say something different? I think I already answered that when I said the pseudo-illusions. The pseudo-illusions. See, we got to come to the fact that we've been, warfare. We're in war. We're in a war, and part of the war is deception. And the more I can deceive you, the easier it is for me to have a victory. And we have to put that on the table. Deception is in high places and low places too. In fact, I've talked to a preacher this morning at the airport. He asked me a funny question, which I won't tell the question. But I said to him that one of the things we've lost is our community churches. We almost don't have community churches anymore. You have mega and mini mega. And they said to me, what do I mean by mini mega? That's another one of those Mariba words. Mini megas means to me that I'm striving to become a mega. And we got to think about all those things. Those are serious things within our community. I'm not talking about things that are outside our community. I'm talking about things that we need to address if we want to have the strength and power that we need to become, to liberate ourselves. Nobody's going to liberate us but us. And so we have to become very, very, very clear of that. Everybody understand what I mean by pseudo-illusion now? Yeah. Tell me, somebody, what I mean by that. Somebody tell me about that. Tell me what I mean. Give me improve on it. I don't care. I'm serious. I mean, I'm serious.
What you think is meant by the word?
Yeah, but by that term, and improve on it, because we need to come to some way that we talk to each other, so that everybody understands.
So in part of our African linguistics, one of the ways we intensified something was by the repetition of it. Excuse me. And so when I hear pseudo, meaning fake, and illusion, which also
right.
is a representative of fake, you saying it's fake. So it's an intensification.
And I think we need to accept that, and take the concept, use it. You use concepts like that so that we understand them even better. Fake, square. I heard it.
That's right.
All right. We need to have family talks often. there are family talks where it's not just the lecturer talking, but where we talk back with each other. The ideas that are put out there may be all right. You know, if I had to describe a little bit about that fake business, all African families, communities, and schools are presented in the public mirrors and the media as sluggish, poverty-stricken, and dependent. Isn't that right? Oh, well, I'll tell you what, you better watch it. You better watch it. Because the public media don't intend for you to have a victory. They don't intend for you to have a victory. They may lead you to believe and create a fake victory for you. And you have to be very careful. Somebody in Atlanta, I work I grew up in Pittsburgh community of Atlanta, and I've been doing some things since I've been there in Atlanta. And there's a big foundation in that section that's facilitating the gentrification. They claim they're helping the community, but they're facilitating gentrification. And the foundation now have become enemies, and it's public knowledge that we are enemies. So they're building a big complex on University Avenue. If any of you happen to know Atlanta, and now they're ready for the first building to open. And guess who they call to cut the ribbon? They called me to cut the ribbon. And so I said, and the black community said to me, well, that's a powerful position. You put you in a powerful position. I said, no, they'll never use me that way. Now, we cannot afford to go along to get along anymore. We cannot afford to do that. They're cutting the ribbon. I got a team of people that I'm working with, and they're just trying to convince me that it would be to our advantage for me to appear and cut that ribbon. I told them what I would do is I'll make a proposition to the foundation. If you do these things in our community, then I might show some cooperation with you. Otherwise, I'm not. And I think that we as a people have to begin to do more and more of that. Prove yourself up front. Don't tell me we've been having fake illusions, fake square. That's my brother told me. For a long time, and we ought to be used to those, and we ought to see through those without batting an eye. Now, so if you'll see me driving a big new $500,000, whatever, I don't know even the name of one. Whatever it is, whatever. And you say, well, Kelsey's succumbed. That ain't gonna happen. I can tell you that. That people are upset right now, but it's not gonna happen. Unfortunately, many of us in the black community, and maybe some in this room, have been influenced by and fallen victim to believing and acting out what is in the pseudo-illusion mirrors. And this is not a condemnation, because all of us have come through schools, churches, institutions, and that those fake illusions have been present in our, and we all have been duped by them. All I'm saying is that let's put them on the table now and learn from them so that we don't continue to follow that same pattern. Because it's time that we acknowledge. Now this is there's certain. I can't miss this one. I'm trying to shorten this up a little bit, but I don't want to miss this fifth point here. One of the fake illusions is let me tell a story about this first. In that same community, the community is about 9/10 of a square mile in area, but there were 400 some families, 500 some families who lived in that community. And I was doing a book, and I recommend to you that I heard Tony telling the history of drumming in Columbus, in the drumming class today. So Brother Tony, Elder Tony, I wanted to make a recommendation to your drumming group that they write a booklet about the history that you discussed this morning. Because it's time we begin to tell our own story. Because if you don't do it, somebody's going to do it for you.
I say.
But I mean, we need to write our own and have. That's what I've done for Pittsburgh, that Pittsburgh community. So I'm saying, one of those books, I wrote 3 of them, and the reason I wrote the second one is that in the life of, I think it was 40-some people, they always talked about the church. And so I said, maybe I ought to write a book on the churches in this community. So I asked, how many churches are in the community? Now, remember I said 0.9 something square miles. 53. That's what I was told, 53 churches. So I said, well, let me go find them. I found 41. Now, I'm not saying 53 doesn't exist there, because some of them might be house churches and so forth that I missed. But I found 41. So I took 18 of that, a sample of 18 of those, and wrote and had them tell their own story. Now, we need to do that in Columbus, Ohio, y'all. Tawi Family Village, we need to do some things like that, where we tell our own stories. Because otherwise, the story that I hear Tony telling about when we organized, when someone had a lock, someone had long, my wife refers to them as ponytails. And they had long locks, and they were about to lose their job when we organized in Columbus, Ohio, to stop it. And we have, and people said to us, well, you were around here then, I think, too. People said to us that won't happen. They have the ability to fire them anyway, but they didn't. And so I know that we have the capacity to do things beyond what we believe that we can do if we follow what we know. If we put our own experiences on the table, don't let somebody tamper with them. Put them on in their pure form. Yeah. Now I had written 6 of those pseudo-illusionary type things, but the list could continue. And I'm going to leave this document with you. At least my wife is going to correct it, and then send you a copy, and you can make copies. That's right. I don't mind anybody knowing that in fact, the copy editors in this book said that Barbara. She said Barbara made it easy for me because she went through it first. But yeah, so it's important. Now let me get to the workshop discussion. You might notice that I'll become a little bit more concrete. I don't want us to forget about the systems and so forth that I've talked about already, that we encounter. I don't want us to forget about them because they're fully in operation. But I don't want us to feel like they have more power than we do. And I don't want us to feel like they even have as much power as we do. Now, any of you who've gone to any schools or paid any attention to any political parties that's around here, they talk about pluralism as if it's a reality. But they use it as a platform to keep us deluded into believing that there's a possibility for us to do it. So let's beat them at their own game and put a pluralistic African nationhood united group together and challenge and say, we're just following what you said was real. That is, pluralism is a reasonable tactic under the American system. Now we know that they have no intent for us to do that. We know that. But don't let that stop us from nationhood. Because we can win at this game if we cut down on the confusion that we have among us. Atlanta is an interesting city.
Yes, it is.
It has probably, in the world, it probably has the most powerful group of African people who have achieved both higher academic achievement and money. But I have a peak over here that's mine, and you have a peak over there that's yours, and somebody has a peak over there that's theirs, and never do the peaks come together. So what happens to the power? Oh. Now I'm saying that to us to say that, so we know that it's not just money, because we see evidence of that in places like Atlanta. We can see evidence here for that matter. We have, my dad would call them, we have some highfalutin people around here. and those highfalutin people do not see themselves a part of you. Most of us. And so it's important that we acknowledge that we have that on the table too. There's an attempt right now to reinstitute Anthropic. Now I don't know how this next Friday we have a meeting at my house with a person from New Jersey, South Carolina, and Florida, yeah. Who wants to do that? I don't know if they're serious or not, but I don't know if they've put everything on the table or not. But those of us who had Anthropic know that there were some weaknesses that we allowed to come and it disappeared. It wasn't somebody outside of us. It was inside of us. And so it's important that we begin to put those types of things on the table. I was talking to Mike, baby. So you can see that let's have kind of a little reality check for a minute. If we want the power that I'm talking about, then there's some things that's important for us. We have to declare ourselves that we are an African people, black people. Not be apologetic about it any place. You know, that's tough sometimes for those of you who have those big shot jobs. That's tough. It may seem tough, but you'd be surprised how much respect you get when you do that, and don't be pushed off of that pedal. So I say as we do the assessment, that's one of them. We are an African people. We said that earlier, didn't we? We are an African people. We are black people, and we are to show it in everything. Now that doesn't mean that we mouth it. That means that we talk about ma'at, principles of excellence, the areas of life that we've got to address and so forth. We have legitimate and unique ways of looking at the world. We have absolutely have legitimate. They're legitimate. And we don't have to apologize for the way we look at the world. This one, sometimes I think that we sometimes forget about this. We have love for each other beyond which we often don't understand ourselves. Now, let me give you an example. If we see let's take a TV show. We see on one of those answer the question TV shows. We see a black person on the panel. Who we pulling for? Who we pulling for? That's right. Yeah, that's right. And we're pulling for them because
The black person playing Jeopardy.
we be pulling for them like they're part of our family, which they are. And that's tough. We don't even know why we're doing that sometimes, but yet we're doing it. So I'm saying to us that we have to begin to acknowledge that we already deep down inside have love for each other beyond which we can even acknowledge ourselves. And so it's time that we begin to use that. And this one, most African families are healthily intact. Whether they're intact with the biological father or not, most of them are healthy. They lead us to believe that that's not true. Most African families, doesn't matter whether the father is there or not, they still can be healthy. But yet they believe us. See, I'm saying that these are things that get in our way because the illusion, that the pseudo illusion has been put out there, and we begin to believe them ourselves. And they stop us from pulling together like we might pull together. Now, what's that guy? 45? Is that what you call him? 45. I don't want to call. It's almost like I don't want to put him something in this at all. Except that he says that he had more employment for black people. The greatest increase in employment for black people had come in his regime. Now I can remember when all black people in Pittsburgh were employed. 99-point-something% of the people were employed, either legally or illegally. And they put the money back in the community.
That's right.
Now, I say to us, we've been duped into believing that we're dependent. I don't know anybody in that community that depended on somebody else for their survival of their children. Now, that's not to say that when what that's called, relief, WPA, and all those other things came into existence, they didn't take advantage of it. But they were existing before WPA and all that, and we still are in some places existing independent of those. And we need to be aware that we have the power to employ ourselves. That's why I like that Gye-Nyame that you talked about yesterday. Gye-Nyame. Yeah. That's why I like that. That's why I like that. But I think that has the greatest potential one of the greatest potentials for this community that I know anything about, in spite of the fact that I see people claiming all kinds of things. We get a paper from a certain person in this community every month, I believe. Every month that talks about all the achievements that they are making. But I think that Tawi can honestly put forth a newsletter that talks about how it's organizing, what it's doing, but it's got to make it real, make it truth. Yeah, and one of those things is that
Gye-Nyame.
I
already know.
I get it together. I get it together. keep emphasizing that because, you know, that's like reciprocal help for each other.
That's right.
That's what it is, like reciprocal help for each other. And it can't help but grow. It can't help but grow if we do it. And I also am encouraging to write it up. To write it up. Make it news. Make it be top news.
I'll send you the newsletter today, sir.
All right. Good. I mean, make it big news.
Yes, sir.
Really. You know, get on the church's programs. Tell them. I mean, I know I see a little frowns out there. But I'm telling you, make it known to people is all I'm saying. And go to the crap game on the corner.
Oh, they don't play craps on the corner no more, Doc.
It's not a schoolyard.
But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yes, sir.
All right. Because, do not see Tawi as being separate from all those things I'm describing.
Yes, sir.
They all make up family. And now they may be part of a non-functional family at a given time, but they all make up family. And remember that each one of them has a Jesusness that's inside of them that when we put it together, it increases our power. Well, I'm going to stop right there for a minute. Are there questions or comments that you wish to make before I ask us to kind of separate? And,
Brother Kwame has a question.
Brother Kwame.
So, first of all, am I correct in saying that Umoja, many times African power equals African victory?
That's right.
All right, so there's, at least from a mathematical perspective, there's two ways I can understand that. Both of them have the same outcome. So when we say Umoja many times, as you were suggesting, that could mean Umoja plus Umoja plus Umoja ellipsis. But also Umoja times also suggests the idea of Umoja and the times or the multiplication sign more than once. And that starts to suggest to a certain power or exponentiated for those mathematically applied. And so so from one perspective you could say just simply Umoja times African power equals African unity.
Power.
Because African power is yet unquantifiable. That suggests an infinitude, something infinitesimal, as we say in math. And by all means, that will suggest a victory. The other way of looking at it is, as I was pointing out earlier, exponentiated. You could say Umoja exponentiated to the African power, yields African victory. But so there's several ways of expressing the idea, but because African power, as of yet, is unquantifiable, that suggests a very large number, should we ever be able to quantify it. And Umoja to that power, that African power, by all means will yield an African victory.
Well, actually, I think you're right. I think we need to expand that equation. But we also need to make sure that it's simple enough for everybody to understand it. Yeah, because it's important that we don't that persons who don't know much about mathematics also understand it. And so, but don't make it false in order for them to understand it. Make it be accurate, but at the same time, there are some people in the room here who are able to take it to calculus and other levels of understanding, and I don't know if I want I don't want that to be just a comment. I'd like for you to take whatever I've said here, put it in your framework, and use it to heal, to grow, to whatever point you want to do that. Because we don't have a disagreement. What we have is putting things together so that we can use them and make more utility out of them.
Right.
And so it's if I was able to get that particular issue over to any black audience I'm talking to, I think I would feel like I had a victory. That one issue alone. But I'm saying to us that we can't stop that though. We have to show, we have to demonstrate and our ability to solve problems. The problems that we have. No, don't go out looking for somebody else's. Start at home. Start at home. Now, some of you know that my wife and I started APDS. When we started APDS, we didn't ask Adam Boyd for one dime. Then we said we're going to take care of that ourselves, and the community was going to support it. Adam Boyd came to us, the pseudo illusion that we fell into. I'm telling you, no, I know if Jerry was here, he would hate for me to say that.
It's true.
But the pseudo illusion that we fell into was that we accepted that first agreement. And now, the thing that made us perhaps a little strong was that we already had our organizational construction together and so they couldn't tell us to undo what we did. They could say that if you want our money, you got to do this, that, A, B, and C, D, and E, and F. And I would say to you, as Tawi Village, make sure that you are funding yourself first. Now, if you want to go to a fund after that, grants after that, then you tell them what you want and under what conditions you will accept it. You don't put it. See, when I talk about power, I'm talking about putting guidelines together like that everybody knows that if they're going to come to you, they're going to have to face these guidelines. Am I making sense? That's right. That's right. And I'm saying that. You want to say something?
No, you said question.
Oh, yeah.
I do have
Okay.
if I'm understanding what you said, put it in where Tawi is in a position that they have to, that they're in a position to be movers in the community.
Right.
Tawi has to also be able to have the difficult conversations among themselves,
Right.
accepting divergent ideas and coming up with something that resembles harmony and unity. But they have to have these discussions, and they cannot turn away from these discussions. And
Well, you got it absolutely correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I think that should be, conversation should be ongoing, so that growth continues, new ideas are happening, and directions can be determined, right?
I have to stand up now. Now let me. I couldn't put it better, but I'm going to say to us, step by step, that we have to have. That is important to have. I don't want to say have to have, but it's important to have harmony to the extent that you speak with one voice. When you put an item on the table that may not agree with what others are saying, and it may be 10 of those different items, then you have to be willing to put them in some sort of order. This one is the first. No, don't necessarily put anybody's item out, say you're crazy. Put them in some kind of sequence. this one we must work on first, second, third, fourth, and so forth. And the reason that that's so important, everybody gains. Everybody feels important. If we don't, and it's, I could say it another way. Everybody is a deity. But we sometimes don't act that way. And we don't act that way toward ourselves or each other. So if I feel like you are a deity, then I ought to act like I feel that you're a deity. Now that doesn't mean we can all run. If we're going to go to a target, and you going down this road and I'm going down this road, we're not going to get to the target for both of us. So we have to put those in order. Say we aim for this target on this step, then we aim for this one on the next step or something like that. Yes, fact of the matter, I don't need to talk anymore, because that is really what I came here to do, is to say to us that the argumentativeness, the disagreeableness, the lack of clarity of where we're going needs to be done away with. And we need to put on the table things that we're going to work on with a timeline on them. I'm emphasizing that, with a timeline on them, so we hold ourselves accountable at this point for having done these things. Yes, sir.
My thing is, for me, and what I learned from you when I was 30, is that if I'm wrong, I know how to say I'm wrong.
That's right.
Sometimes we find, I'm an elder now, I'm 65 now. When you got me, I was 31. So, to come back and apologize. If you've done something wrong, be a man enough to come back and apologize. It doesn't make a difference what position you're in. Is to come back. If you're in a family, if you want to get fed, you understand what I'm saying? Okay, Mom, I'm sorry, I should have ate them green beans or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? But we need to come back and apologize and then try to work together as a unit. You understand? And that there's no, like you said, that we should look at each other as deities. So if I look at you as a God and you look at me as a God, well, then we got this thing.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I want to say that our unity, you were talking about unity, and our unity is our power, I believe. But our unity has to be more than just merely spurting our unity. Because if we don't understand that unity is for all of us to come together, that's where our power comes from, then that unity is nothing. Sometimes through Kwanzaa, those principles of Kwanzaa, I think that we speak of, is a part of our power. And if we don't practice, if we ain't practicing unity, we have to begin to start practicing that so we could feel how unity looks. And we'll see how unity looks. We have to practice Kujichagalia. We got to practice that self-determination. We got to practice that, all of the principles. And if we ain't practice them every day, we'll find ourselves trying to walk a line that we can't walk. And if we're trying to walk a line that we can't walk, then we have no power. We have no power. Until we start practicing, because those 7 principles that we talk about, I'm going to say this here, we don't practice them enough. Because, if we practice them enough, we will begin to help one another, be more accepting of hearing my brother and my sister when they're speaking, rather than trying to speak over them, to get your point across or to get my point across. We'll be more together. And if we are not doing that, if we don't start doing that today, if we don't start doing that today, then we can forget about all of this stuff that we're sitting here looking at.
because the world keep moving, and those people out there who making these illusional rules for us will fall right off into that. And that's what we have been doing. So, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just speak what I know and see. Some of us went through rites passage and then some hadn't. So when I came, I feel that I followed what was going on in Tawi family. And I think, if we can, everybody should get aboard with we learned in rights, in this African kinetic learning on Friday. I think everybody would have more unity because we'll have a better understanding. Because I sometimes don't feel that we're doing well. We originally had. They didn't even change how rights were. That's what I feel. And I think all of us that went through rights have a different view of what's going on today.
And I think that, I forget your name next to you.
Claudia.
I know you, no, Claudia. Cassandra.
Oh, Cassandra.
I think what Cassandra's, when she summarized, that we needed to have constant family talks. I think that's true, that we do. And we need to be able to be willing to say, the young brothers said that we need to be able to acknowledge when we make a mistake. Because, and even if we don't, then the family embraces you just the same. And then begin to try to nurture you toward the particular things that you're trying to, that you have set for both your short-term activities and your long-term activities. And I can't emphasize that enough. I can just say to you that that I'd like for us to begin today. That's what I want to say. And so I'd like for us to just count off down around the room. Oh, wait a minute. Before we do, let's give anyone that went Ye Masara who wish to say something.
Brothers and sisters, I think that there are those of us in the room that are old enough to be able to say it with positive effect, that what Baba has just said, it sounds not new but old. And so where we've individually, we've got to move from individually to collectively saying where we've fallen short. We're going to make a commitment to pledge to pick up and move on further. We're much farther along, I think, than we give ourselves credit for a lot. One of the things I think we have to give ourselves credit for is that the Tawi family village didn't start yesterday. And it's not going to end, pledged that it's not going to end tomorrow. We're not going to allow the Baba to come back among us, and it's not come back among us, remember, that he's never left us. We're not going to allow the mistakes we've made in the past to cause us to stumble or fall, rather, in the future. The future is right now, and so we're going to work for that future. And I would only suggest, as may as well say 80-year-old person, elder among us, to say that we are going to stop using if, ands, and buts. And we're going to do the positive things that we know that we need to do, because our children are indeed with us and watching us and all along. So we're going to be all right. I would trust that because the elders in the Tawi family village and the nation builders and the nation builders for sure know that the reason that I've been away has been that you don't spend 18 days in ICU and not get some wisdom from those that I felt around me all that time. Because the old pulmonary specialist says, you need to use this oxygen as you feel you need to use it. Well, I'm feeling I need to use it. And I'm gonna call my daughter and tell her to come and pick me up and take me back to my senior complex. And let us continue to do more than pray in absentia of one another, but that we will indeed know that as we pray for one another, we're working for one another. That's what the prayer is, working for one another. And I sure love the term that has been used, all the terms that the Bible has used to remind us of who we are and where we are. We are geniuses, and we're going to continue to act like that, trusting that even though you don't see me today in the physical, in the spiritual, maybe not the mental, but the spiritual, I'm sure, present in the room. So, Creator's blessing.
We are African people, no matter which continent we are. We must not forget they brought us all over the world and dropped us all over. We need to unite all over the world because the struggle is here for all of us.
Hotep family. I was thinking last night that it would be good if somehow we could just bring all of you back to Atlanta to show Atlanta how to do it, because you don't realize how powerful you are. And you need to continue, as we were saying either this morning or last night, that in Atlanta there's a section here doing good, and another neighborhood over there, another community here of African people trying to do what we need to do, which is fine, but we need to get it all together and bring us the victory, because we have the power. So continue, Tawi and all of you, and we will get there together.
I see.
I am so glad I'm here. By the way, my name is Emmanuel. I'm from Tanzania, and I'm glad to meet both of you. I don't know if I'm going to ask a question or I wanted to add something. I don't know, but I was having something came in my mind when you were speaking about Umoja. And Umoja, my language is unity. And I said, wow. So I was thinking, because I've been around the United States for a while, what I think I noticed makes the movement to back up a little bit, to go slow or to break up in groups, to not develop, to go forward. I think I noticed one or two things that people, they grow up in a culture where you can't say anything and you hold things back in the heart for a while. And I learned that word in dictionary. They say to hold grudges. And I was struggling with that for a while here. So I find out later, the breaking in the families and community, and black people are very intelligent, smart, and they should be actually, we should be number one. We are number one in the world for our knowledges and the integrity and all that. But it's because of that, we kept paying for a long time, and we don't have time to speak because the culture, you are afraid to speak, because if you speak, you feel you're offending someone, or if how they feel when I actually bring this issue in the table, or so that fear caused a little bit to break up, and when we break up, the Umoja is not continued, then all the ideas and the great talents that community people have, that they, is strayed away because of these holding pain. And the pain that continue to cause stress, and brothers and sisters are dying in this because we make our days living short because they cause all the illnesses and all that. I would just think about that to us to Umoja. What you brought is a very powerful movement.
Yeah, I think that you're quite right. In any emotion, it's certain of the power. And the one is stronger than probably the strongest number they exist. One. So one. Because that is on that is all others are built. And so it becomes important that we acknowledge that, and we need to acknowledge what's holding us back and act on it. You know, and that's, if I had to say anything, you can't just safely just say that this is what's holding us back unless we're willing to act on it. Now I want to ask us just do a little work for about 15 minutes, small group. And I guess it's kind of 8, maybe whatever that comes out to be.
Where do you think you walk to? You better sit down for the Peter Picture down.
Okay, you three.
We have two here.
1, 2, 3, 4. Just call, no, one. I'm counting.
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm 4.
4.
Okay. 5.
Oh, let's come on down the table here.
7.
7, okay.
8.
Who's 8?
Oh, you mixed it up.
Well, let's go.
Let's go in order.
1.
How many groups would you like?
Oh, well, like
Let's do 5.
5.
So we'll count to 5.
5, right. Count off by 5.
Count by 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 5.
Okay, 1.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that's one group. Go again.
Oh, 1, 2,
3.
4.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, Baba, we look like we're going to have to get about 3 groups now because it done fell apart. So we got a group right here. We got a group over there at that table that already counted up 5. We got 5 sitting right here. We got about 5 or 6 right here. So.
Very good.
What's the agenda? You need the mic.
I'll go with one.
I'm in.
Now, I'm going to give you these sheets. On these sheets, on one axis, there's areas of life. Truth, education, economics, entertainment, labor, health, politics, religion, sex, and so on. Those are beautiful areas of life. On the other axis is truth, righteousness, justice, balance, reciprocity, order, and harmony. Now, and I would ask you, and the reason I'm giving you this way is that I want you to think this way. Because we need to think about the values that we have, that we already have, and putting our action into those values. Okay?
Why is it so cold in here?
You got a roof over your head.
No, he said it's cold too.
I'm concerned about him. He cold. He can be cold.
Yeah. No, that's you
What am I
can
going to do with
do.
this? What am I going to do with this? See how these trees are going to make it? I guess I should do that. Are y'all staying for the party? It's up to you, honey. I don't care.
Yes, sir.
Let me give some good instructions. Now, I'm asking you to, in each group, you to just take one little activity that you think you can accomplish in, I say 3 to 6 months. And that group is to agree on that. And I gave you, everybody has 2 sheets?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on there,
What do you need?
now you're keep in mind now, your objective, I gave you a sheet. I gave you a sheet that has a description of an objective.
Okay.
Do not make it so vague that we can't understand it. Those objectives. It should have to be specific. It should be measurable. It should be achievable or attainable within 3 to 6 months. And I'm asking you, if the Tawi Family Village would call a teleconference 3 or 4 months from now, so we can check up, see how far we're along on the particular objective that the group set. How about that? Okay.
So, Bobby, Kelsey,
Yes, ma'am.
for clarity,
Okay.
on the education line, it has truth, righteousness, and justice, etc. So we should pick something within those lines, whether it be education, economics, or whatever, that we have a goal that we want to attain. Is that right? Within this group?
Yeah, within that group.
Okay.
That means we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives. That's how we might do it. Right?
Okay. I think I got it.
Question?
Then we go across that road. When it's over from the time,
Going down. So is the rest of these one of those boxes, education, that all of my
So I would say present a financial report.
Bring about that.
Are we all representing one? Elaborate on the goal reaching category. Education. John, we have to do this now. And then anybody else? Okay. Economic, entertainment,
You're not gonna measure like, oh,
I understood.
that's fine.
Do we want to? You want to choose something in all of those areas?
You mentioned going down to making it
Then you can go into these other areas. Once that's done, you want to and then it settles down to okay, now, within this administration, that's how I feel. Family one, I know for
It can be varied information.
When you get to the core and essence of it, you see it is all
I could say and what you said is we don't have to do all of them, you could do one of them.
If we want to do, if we want to do, first of all, let's say we want to do. I think our goal is to a life time, but when some of us I don't know how to make a whole life. What if the fans not feel this? The reason I'm saying, if you go to stay on the ground, you never write the job.
You know, it may take a while to start stuff.
We talk about
Which seniors are you doing? So what we're saying is some seniors but everybody, what we're saying is that we're not, may not be everybody. Actually, but if there's anybody
Let's let it go of the This is clean everything. I work. And once you clean,
I'll have a workshop.
Yeah. They connect to everything and everyone. That's the highest aspect of one or SAR. You know what? SAR represents that we are all connected. Right. Like you said, your plan to start. One thing right. So we're connected to the line. So I'm actually teaching one concept, taught it in a pilot program last year. They asked me this year actually taught in some classes. They connect. So it's like a foundation. Family spirit. Family spirituality. Talk about that's what it's that's the close spirit that deals with how we interact with each other, how man and woman, how children, how we all come together. That's how it's balanced. So we're teaching young people about that at a very young age. Younger than some of us person that's 70 or older who start learning about things that they have spirituality. Yes.
6 minutes more. 6 minutes.
That's healing. So when we talk about issues, we're talking about festering, we're going to present issues so someone all those things we have to heal, we have to learn how to release that negative energy. And our ancestors had a way of go backward all the way or whatever. There is a way that how they release negative emotions, you can release harm and trauma. You can heal from your traumas. You can heal from racism and white supremacy. And still even being like all in it, but we still free and it's really just be amazing. I've seen that, I've witnessed that. So I'm sorry to going on education and how to teach that next generation. So we can focus on something that is useful, like even adults, because maybe we can start off with like a simple class that is universal, that uses African medicine, uses the voice of the religions, like kind of I see like religious course
I hope everybody's getting it down now. We got about 3 or 4 minutes.
My grandparents, how they were so feminine, and then they had to go through certain things, and they had to ask certain questions, and how they live. Make progress. Certain goals you have, you can always reach those goals. Those are how we
Yes,
that's a constant thing.
Someone to take notes
In the building and make sure that they're not falling back on your kids.
and share with everybody.
Got about 2 minutes.
2 minutes! To get it wrong, to advertise.
So then you are when you get around this, you gotta act this way. Spirituality, how it could even deal with, regardless of if you gotta deal with Caucasians, it's not, I work with adults. All these so you can I have an opportunity. And that's how it comes from last week. They're building something with the young people. Okay, and not waiting. That's true. Somebody gives you 10 friends and those are 13. Knowing their development.
This guy from New Jersey.
You can create activities and things to teach them. You know, so that's one thing. That's what we got to figure out. Again, two parents are because all of this is on Facebook.
Okay. Now it's on. Can you bring it to a close now? And okay. Everybody ready? Ready to report out?
We're ready over here.
Okay.
You're not going to read my notes. This is
Big boy knows. Big boy knows.
But we don't know where he is.
Okay, I'll go.
Amen.
I'll go now.
Remember where we are.
Remember that what we're trying to do is something that you can achieve within the next 3 to 6 months. And it's important because I think that we need to practice this. You know, this kind of activity we need to practice, putting it down specific, measurable, with a timeline on it, and the actions and the resources that we need to accomplish that. You know, so who wants to report out first? Now, before I'm going to tell you again that I'm asking the Tawi Family Village to consider. Now I know that to consider setting up a teleconference. Say 3 months from now, maybe that would be about October or something like that, wouldn't it? Something like that. About 3 months from now, where we just get on the phone and talk about what you've accomplished in terms of that particular objective, and what kind, if you're having difficulty, what kind of difficulty you're having, and how you might overcome it. You all with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who wants to be first then? Yes.
Our group chose.
I know you don't need it, but
Our group chose education, and what we selected was for Tawi to develop an African-centered rites of passage program for males and females and families within the next 6 months. So, I mean, that's the specificity is, in the title, measurable within 6 months. What we need to do is to recruit and train elders and nation builders and make sure that we're all speaking in one voice. Also find initiate warriors or nation builders who need to be trained. The relevancy is that it is a mandate and a need for our community to make sure that's done for our folks to know who they are and how they operate. And the timeliness of it is within 6 months.
I'm assuming that you're with the group came to that conclusion, and you're
I share.
some way to work together to make that happen.
I share.
Next, somebody.
All right, we also chose education, and going on the SMART objective, we decided that we needed to unify. That's one of our biggest problems. We're just not unified like we should. And so focusing on unity and finding a common denominator, educating the community as to who they are, who we are, and where we're going. Measurable, we thought about having monthly meetings. So as we're recruiting, we can focus more so on the children and then move that into the complete family sphere so that it's engulfing our whole family unit. And then achievable, in 6 months we were to achieve a membership of these adults and children. One of the main focuses is to really look at reprogramming. We've been programmed. Yeah, right? We've been programmed a way that we should not be going. And one of the biggest challenges is to deprogram and reprogram. And so that will be one of the first pieces to this growing a strong community. Because we can throw seed down and it'll just sit there on the top and it'll sprout a little bit. But then when the sun comes out, it's going to burn it up. But if we dig deep and we reprogram and we plant that seed deep enough, it's going to grow up into something very flourishing and strong and enduring. And then it's relevant because we're going to tap also into our spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. That's the piece that's also being overlooked. And then again, the time frame is 6 months. So we're hoping that that cell over there we can become a part of that cell, and eventually all these little groups we have here will grow into one large group.
This group right here.
Right here?
Right here.
Oh, here, Jill.
Oh, you got a question?
Each of you committed, the group itself is committed, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, committed to make sure that happens.
That's the goal.
Okay, all right. See, in other words, I'm asking each of these groups to not be just being an exercise, but to actually plan on how you're going to make this happen.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Let's just say Earl and myself already have a platform. And I think this is where the problem comes into play. We already have a platform. We go to a monthly meeting every month and of conscious people. But to extract you from where you're going and you from where you're going and you from, here's where the problem is. Because they might say, well, Earl's a Moor. I'm not a Moor. I don't know what a Moor is. You see, how do we build in the common thread that says we're all Moors? We're all Africans. Is African a Moor? You see, there's where the division comes in.
Well, I'm not sure about we all have some beliefs. We have to ask ourselves, what are the African beliefs that we want to follow? And And long ago, 1949, I guess, 7 or 8 or something like that, I became a chartered member of the APD, Alpha Phi Alpha. Alpha Phi Alpha is a Greek organization, a Greek-lettered organization. I had to make a decision that was not in the best interest of African people, and if I were going to join, if I were going to do something worthwhile to uplift, nurture all African people, then I have to alter my dedication to that in such a way that can happen. That includes me as a Moor, if I were a Moor, as well as being Baptist or Methodist or whatever the case might be. And what I'm trying to say is, a lot of times the labels that we have, and that's not this doesn't put. I hope nobody's offended by this, but the labels that we have sometimes keep us apart. And I don't want that. I'm really calling for us to not let that happen if we can. And it means that we have to, bend a little bit maybe, and so forth. So, and we have to ask ourselves and be willing to say, does this label enable me to facilitate growth for all African people? If it doesn't, then we have to check ourselves on where we go from there. And I would think we have to be straight talk to each other about that. And I'm saying to you that when I say things like this, I am not trying to put anything down on anybody. But I say that if we don't make the choice to make sure that whatever it is that we're doing will be uplifting and stimulating for growth for all African people, then we're not doing ourselves justice. In fact, we're setting ourselves up so that this little illusion can operate. Play one against the other one. Okay, next.
So I think our group was next, and really we just expounded upon what you said, Elder Dr. Kelsey. We, again, Elder Cassandra made sure too that we kept in mind family talks and that we continue to have family talks on a regular basis. So like everyone else, we chose education, and education was our category. And we thought that when we talked about the principles as well with education and family talks, not only will we be talking about who we are and readdressing the programming that needed, or reprogramming that of course we know needs to be done, but also the cleansing. The cleansing then would hopefully bring about truth, righteousness, justice, balance, and then ultimately order for the goal of harmony. So we talked about that process as well with the family talks, then applying them to the SMART goals, saying that these need to occur twice a month, and that them occurring twice a month, then that, I'm trying to read notes that I was not a part of. Hold on a second.
That's why she got a report, because she wasn't here.
I was working though. I was working. I'm getting ready for the party. Everybody staying for the party? I'm going to do a quick interlude real quick. Yeah, I need to see nods around the room. Turn up, thanks, sis, twin. Back there in the back. Everybody staying for the party, right? Well, I got the mic before somebody take it from me. Okay. Absolutely, you can take your notes back and explain what is on them.
We put family talk in education because we felt that that's where it belonged. We were educating ourselves. We're having the talks where we let go of the anger, the frustration, the disappointment, etc., etc. We had said measurable. We want to do that twice a month. We said initially once a month, but someone disagreed. So we could do twice a month. We said we want someone to take notes, and these notes would be distributed to the family. We defined family as the community, not just the same group of people. And we said relevant. It's relevant because we will be building mending and growing our relationships. And the time bound would be achievable within 3 to 6 months.
Okay, I'll take it back to the back table. Do you all have someone? My sister, what's happening?
Okay, this probably could be an education, but we chose to put ours under economics. It says by February 2020, we will develop and present at least one financial literacy workshop to address common issues for seniors in our communities. Well, that we thought it was specific. Measurable was by 2020, at least one. I think definitely it's achievable and attainable. I think it's relevant because everybody, I think financial independence or just getting basic information. Okay, it's relevant because we will be looking at specific problems and we're going to pull the problems out. Is that all? Is that enough? Okay. Right. Okay. All right.
All your members in that group said they're going to work on that.
It's what we said we wanted to work on. We did have one silent member, but I know his mind is working. Excuse me.
Well, the first thing is I want to thank each one of you for doing this exercise. But more importantly, I would like to ask you to make it more than an exercise, to make it become a reality. And I'd ask the Tawi family village leaders if they would be responsible for making sure we have a teleconference of some kind where we kind of report out what progress we made 3 months from now. That fair? Achievable? All right. Okay. I had to turn. Never mind. I had to turn to something that I wanted to do. So I want to close the workshop and say to us that I appreciate all the participation that took place today, and I would.
All right, so I'm Tawana Russell, or Director Russell here at Millennium Community School. Please know that it is my pleasure to host this event and all of the events going forward that we speak about tonight or today. So that conference call that Doc is talking about, we can start it here and branch out if you actually want to be in the room. That meeting for the students, talking to the students, then working out to the families. The family talk meetings happening with the families, absolutely. Things that need to happen. And then this group talked about something along education again, help me out. Rites of passage specifically, again, with young people, and the financial literacy piece in the back with the elders, not just for the elders, but I think that it will evolve to just all members of the village. Please know that. But all of that can be worked on and worked from here at Millennium Community School. There's a fellow educator in this room, and I know that the problems that I have are some of the things that we face here educating children also abound in her school as well too. And so we want to make sure that the things that we are talking about actually come to fruition, and we are certainly welcoming the community's help. Thank you, Bubba.
We got a question.
A comment more so. Also, since everybody's here in this room, Tawi has also opened his school up to the G&J Community Mall that we have here every month, every last Saturday. And we need people to come and support that because it's all black vendors, and we need more vendors, and we need more supporters of those vendors to come out. So if you know anyone who, and it's from 12 to 6, so if you know, and sometimes like Rhoda, she does workshops, she's done a yoga workshop, there's usually something always going on in the center of the mall, but you can come and not just purchase shea butter and jewelry, but they have the young brothers and sisters that are a lot from this school that do the urban gyms, and they have
garden right out back.
Aquaponic
No,
too.
no,
Okay.
aeroponic, baby.
I always say aeroponic. They do aeroponic vegetables, and then they have a garden out back.
Actually, it's a farm. But go ahead.
A farm out back. But anyway, so I want you could come and get your greens. We have a
all
sister
year round.
All year round. That's right. All year round. And
When you walk out this room, if you look down the hall, we got the aeroponic things right out in the hall. Everybody can see the fresh stuff growing out there.
And the greens are phenomenal. I don't buy my greens from anywhere else. Also, you can get your cleaning supplies. We have a sister that comes, and she's one of those coupon people, and she sells extreme couponers, I think they call them. And she has like a big bag of like laundry detergent, dish liquid, soap, all that stuff, $20, and it's a big bag. So you can get and obligate yourself to shop at the G&J Mall for those particular items. So that's.
I just want to add, and y'all come together and y'all can meet with y'all groups there, because a market is not just about buying stuff. It's also about us coming together as a community. If you look at the center of every African civilization, there was a market. That's why we started it, not because to make money, but we know that in a sense commerce reflects the growth of the community. So we got to come out, we got to communicate, we got to talk, we got to share our skills. Y'all can,
cultural stabilizer.
Right, it's a cultural stabilizer. The financial literacy, we got room for you to go on and present there. Those that's talking about rites of passage, you got room to present there. We have this space. Why it's available to us is it would be a crime
not to use.
Right.
All right. So thank you.
Christine does a fabulous workshop too. Let me just say, her African heritage diet, and she does a lot of times she'll do a free workshop and cook, so you can taste some of her good food.
All right, so we got a plan here. We got the G&J, the Gye-Nyame Mall that happens once a month on a Saturday. That it's open to not just marketing, but also now workshops and things like that and educational material. So that is the platform. It's right here. You guys just have to plan when you want to present in that forum. There you go. We just did it, right? Okay. And as Doc said, Baba Kelsey said, he didn't come here and say anything new. He didn't. He literally just came and reminded us of what our obligation should be to one another. So when he was speaking about it, I said, man, this unity thing is a problem of practice. No, he didn't say nothing new. He just reminded us again what we should be practicing. So the things that we talk about that may be in our way, it just may be how we practice what it is that we're supposed to do. So I'll be watching for this problem of practice with this group. And I bet we're going to hit every last one of our goals, because we're going to be working on our execution. All right, I'm turning it over before I get started.
Well, I just want to say thanks to Tawi, as now professionally as an administrator, because some of you know that used to work for the State Department of Education here in Ohio. In fact, some of you may not know that whatever elementary counseling exists in Ohio, that I was the one that started it out of the State Department. And so And I know how difficult it is sometimes, particularly for black administrators, to take a stand. And I'm so happy to see you take such a stand for the education of our families, our community, and our children. We need more black educators who are not afraid to stand up straight. Because we need to stand up straight and do things. And I want to thank each one of you for participating in this little experience today. It was just family talk, that's all. And I hope that you will carry it out. And I hope that over the year, if we talk 3 or 4 times in a conference call, that we will be talking about the completion of the objectives that you set for the day and other objectives that you may decide upon. But keep in mind, all I said to you is that it's important for you to have that one single agreement in your groups and across the groups, and be specific and measurable, and an action plan and resources that come from you first. If you decide, again, I want to emphasize that, please do, I'm going to emphasize this first, please do not go out seeking funding for anything that you said initially. I'm going to ask you that. Get a solid foundation. Get a solid foundation. And if you go for funding, you tell the funder what you want and why you want it and under what conditions you're willing to accept it. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, I'm telling you, they will have the strength in driving you.
Yes, they will.
And again, I appreciate that. But I didn't come here to tell you something new. Our cultural rules are not new. They're the oldest rules in the. And so, if we all we have to do is reach back and get them. They made us forget them in the name of both the calendar, both the spiritual writings, and otherwise. Oh, Brother Kwame, I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this is our version of family planning.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's all it is. In fact, the matter, you know, if you read it with your blood family, in-house family, if you take some of the things that I've said today, they will work on your house. See, because the rules of the universe don't change according to the size. And sometimes we can tend to think it does, but it doesn't. That's what they have us believing. But the same works for 2 as it works for 50, 100, so forth. Okay, let me close by saying, reading this little being a genius in Kujichagulia. I ask you to do some self-determination today, and I'm just going to close with this. Being a genius in Kujichagulia requires me as an African to first look inside of me and acknowledge that I have the spiritual and mental power to at all times be free. Then release the power to manifest collective unity in all that I think, say, and do in my community. Kujichagulia self-determination is never selfish. It is building blocks that strengthen our work within our families. It helps us show love, understanding, kindness, and power and humility. They are ours rather than just the emphasis on individuality. Hard work, yes, an African struggle in an environment of rivalry where individual success and being ahead means declaring self-victory, since some say that this is only a technicality, but African sisters and brothers, true Kujichagulia practices actions with results in powerful African collective unity. Kujichagulia is self-determination, and it's all aimed right back at unity. What's up, brothers and sisters? Thanks so much.
I have a
I sing now? Is it my time? Can I sing?
Sing.
That's on the program.
Go ahead. You got it.
I'll save everybody.
So I didn't see it. Yeah, it should be
Oh, okay.
She was ready.
Some of it was that.
Party over here. Hey, everybody stand behind the bread. You say you party. I'm gonna go around and do a head count so you party. Since you stand for the party, y'all partying over here. How y'all doing over here? Y'all everybody look down at their phones. I'm going over here talking about party. Y'all want to be avoidance. I'm no avoidance. How you doing? I'm Jill. Hi. Cheers. Please take each other. Y'all ain't been party.
They'll be jealous, you know.
Everyone knows it's
You guys were so.
Let's not talk about that. You saying what party? I'm going around. You party? We're still here. Say party. Party.
I'm so excited.
Party.
I might be able to talk somebody else in there. I might be able to get this brother in there. I know your fans don't even know about that. Oh, I do it every week. You come right by my house because we're on the south. Out the Great Trace. Next Sunday?
266
When you guys are speed,
But does his name come up when he calls? Because we get so many telemarketers.
That sounds good.
Oh, okay. We get so many telemarketers. When you get all of our just in the next day, you'd be surprised at what they want to sell or what they want to give you. And so you don't recognize the name of the number. And we even started getting telemarketers from 614. And so see, that's why. Because usually 614 say, oh, that's somebody who wants to get up. That's terrible. And so he's saying, if you want to do that office, that doesn't, they don't pay any attention that they're sick and calling. Okay, they don't know that's who it is. Yeah, very good. So good to see you. Good to see you too. Oh, how nice. Look at those eyes. Oh, yeah, I know, because we have a 3-year-old. Enjoy. All right. Okay, take care.
Hello, introduce myself. This ain't an isolated problem that I should be trying to tackle by myself as an educator. So I'm always open to professionals who are looking for the dedicated clientele to actually demonstrate results.
The results. I love that word because that's what we need. We need results. Now you have a family yourself. So you're busy with it too.
Or affectionately known as Director Russell.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Yep, I certainly would. This very room right here, we can host it. I got a conference phone.
Okay.
So I can set right there in the middle. We got all the text to go with it if we wanted to go live with it or record it. And
Okay. Very good. Very good. My husband and I do a workshop called Poisons in Your Pantry. So maybe we can do that one time. All right. I got information.
I think we met a year ago, but let's meet again. Yes. Good to see you. We appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. It's always enlightening. We got to get Martin out. Program.
As far as schools concerned,
Sir.
They're not as fast as cartoons. Right. So what you're saying is it's fine. So I hit the I called and I said, after I get here, I said, okay, man. So they went to take care of
Yeah, I gotta have a new MRI.
Yeah, I